or something? Because if it hits the floor, it something terrible.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We'll do a voice check and get started. Hey, everybody. You just say test, 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 test.
Test, test.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Julie from Pymetrics, founder and chief data scientist. You probably know who I am. Dr. Julie has been so kind as to come here and share her vision, what she's been doing with Pymetrics. She has a really amazing background. She got a PhD in neuroscience at MIT, worked for the Department of Defense for a while before founding this company, which has a very interesting mission. It's combining research in neuroscience with modern recruiting to try and find people with specific cognitive or neurologic aptitudes for certain jobs. I was talking briefly with some of her team members about it over here. Very interesting stuff if you're at all interested in psychology. Julie's going to talk a little bit about her work at Pymetrics, as well as show us about how we as software developers could potentially leverage our skill set into careers in data science as well, which is also a very hot and growing field. This is a great opportunity also for those of you who are about to be on the job search to maybe start doing some preliminary networking, find out what companies that you find interesting look for in their hires, how you can continue to grow your skill set after Full Stack Academy. I was talking with Priyaka, who's the head of UI and UX. They've hired a lot of people from a diversity of backgrounds, not just the Stanford CS major types, including boot camp graduates. So this is just one of the many cool companies that you might be interviewing with a little bit down the line. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Dr. Julie.
Dr. Julie, thank you.
Dr. You, Julie?
No, Julie's fine.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm kind of surprised to see the audience full of men. I thought that this was going to be a women's only event, but welcome. So yeah, my name is Julie Yu, and as you mentioned, I'm from a startup called Pymetrics. I would love to get a sense as to who's in the room. So who here considered engineering in college, or did you guys? Who studied engineering in college? Okay. And how many of you switched your career interests in your college years or after college years? Okay, so many of you. I can also relate to that. I went through many career changes in my life, and now I'm settled as a chief data scientist at a startup that I co-founded, and I am as happy as anyone can be in a job. All right, so let's get started. So Pymetrics is where we are using neuroscience and data science to match people to careers, and we do this bias-free. Now, what does that all mean? We help people find their best fit careers on how their brain actually works. And the best part is that because our algorithms are bias-free, we are encouraging more women to go into typically male-dominated fields like you guys are doing now. And for a little more background to our company, I clearly did not make these slides. I don't typically put my face on my presentation. But for a little more background, our company was founded by two PhD neuroscientists coming from Harvard and MIT. And yes, people do find it surprising to see two female co-founders doing something that's actually more scientific and more technical. And my co-founder, Frida, she was a neuroscientist. She was more doing cognitive neuropsychology and assessment. And I was also doing neuroscience, but approaching it with more engineering and data science aspect of neuroscience. So we wanted to combine our background in I don't know how to use my new laptop. So we wanted to use our background in science and engineering to build something that actually matters in real life application. And okay, so here we are. So using sort of the neuroscience research that we did at MIT, we wanted to create a world where people were matched to jobs, where their inherent traits lead to success, and where companies were hiring diverse people that were actually going to stay and succeed in their jobs. So I'm very excited to tell you a little bit more about, I don't know how to operate this. Okay.
Do you want me to do slides?
Give me 2 seconds and I might need your help. Okay.
You have it. I've got it.
Okay. So I forgot what I was just talking about, but so let's start with the data science process. Here's a very high-level overview of what the data science process should look like, and this is what the Harvard data science course says is the data science process. We start with the question. You start by asking an interesting question. And what would you do if you had all the data in the world? What do you want to predict? What do you want to estimate? And there's something that you're passionate about and you want to answer to that specific question. Now, once you have that question, you want to get data. And when the process of getting data, you care about how you sample the data, you care about what sort of data is actually relevant, and how do you go about getting it, and are there any privacy issues? And then the next step is to explore the data. You want to see what the data that you collected looks like. You want to plot it, you want to see if there are any abnormalities, you want to see if there are any outliers, if there are any patterns. And you play a lot with your data, and you get a good sense with your data set, and then you're ready to build your model. So you build a model, you fit the model, and then you validate the model. Now, that process is obviously a lot more difficult than just going through build, fit, and validate. But once you have the model that you're satisfied with, then you can start answering the question that you initially started with. So are the results actually satisfying to you? Can you answer the question that you actually started off with it? And can you come up with a story that you could tell by visualizing it or communicating it and coming up with an interesting story? So that's just the general overview of the data science process. So keeping that in mind, I want to walk you through the Pymetrics product and what we do, to give you a sense as to how data science is being used in helping people to find jobs that are well suited for them. So at Pymetrics, we're using neuroscience and data science to match candidates to best fit companies and roles. So we make this easier for companies to understand what they're looking for in candidates and find people who possess those traits. Now, so how are we using this data science to do this? In a high level, we collect objective data, and we use machine learning algorithms to build models that predict success for a specific job. And at the same time, we also ensure that the bias is removed from the models that we build, so that we are, at the end of the day, generating predictions that are not only picking out white males, for example, but rather predicting or helping people to find jobs across all gender and ethnicity groups. So how does this actually look in our product? I don't know if any of you have seen Pymetrics or not, but we have a set of 12 games that you can play online or on your phone. And these are about 2 to 4 minutes long each. And after playing these 12 games, we show users their unique trait report. So this is the data that we collect. So we wanted to, remember initially we wanted to start by asking a question, can we build a model to predict your job success? Now we're gathering data through these gameplays. And then once we have this game data set, we can map these traits to which careers that you're going to be good fit for or not. So I have to point this out. This is actually an actual screenshot of a user, Priyanka Jain. She's sitting right there. She's our head of product, and her top 3 career choices, as you can see, is product development and UX design and quality assurance engineering. I did not know this until today. And obviously very glad that we hired her into a product role, and she's doing a fascinating job as a head of user product. Okay, so let's break down how we actually do this. We'll start by taking a closer look at the type of data we gather, and as I mentioned, we gather data through gameplay, and we're going to do this as a group, okay? So this is one of the 12 games, and it's like a short version of one of the games. What you're going to see on the screen, you're going to see either a red circle appear or a green circle appear. Whenever you see a red circle, I want you to clap as quickly as possible. So you got to get ready. You got to put your notebooks down. You're going to clap as quickly as possible because we care about the reaction time so much. But at the same time, we want you to be accurate. So when you see a green circle, you're not going to clap. All right? Ready? Okay, we're going to do this as a group. Okay, so can anyone guess what we're measuring here? Anyone else? That's one thing. Okay, potentially. Yep. So two things that we care about here that we are measuring is your level of impulsivity and your ability to sustain attention. And we do this by looking at your reaction time and how accurate you are. And one thing that you probably noticed that when I was actually clapping after the green circle, I slowed down. My reaction actually slowed down. So these things actually tell me a lot about my cognitive traits as a person than you coming up to me and asking me what your attention, ability to sustain your attention is and my impulsivity level is, because I have no idea. But this actually tells me. So we're actually using these games to measure people's inherent cognitive behavior. Throughout, like I mentioned, we have 12 games. It takes about 25 minutes, and we are able to assess 90 cognitive, social, and emotional traits. So these games are actually adapted from the neuroscience research that both my co-founder Frida and I were working on at MIT. And they were validated through many neuroscience and neuropsych studies that are done. So it's not something that we invented, but we just sort of called it from neuroscience research community. Okay, so this is what you would see after you play 12 games. You have like your trait report, and you're able to see where you stand with respect to the general population. And again, this is Priyanka's data. And you can see her attention duration, her level of fairness, and processing consistency. And we show you where you are. And this is part of like exploring data. Remember, going back to the whole data science process, we have asking questions, and then getting data, and then exploring data. This is a little bit more high level of exploration, but you can certainly explore your data and see where you are and take a look at your trait report and find out more about yourself as a person. All right, so we've gone through data, getting data, exploring data. Now, what do we do with the data to map it to career? And that is the modeling part, right? So we need to build models that can predict your success at all kinds of roles. Now, how do we do that? We train algorithms to learn from examples. And we build models off of top performers in a role, and we look at their trait profile, and we compare that to any candidates that are looking into going into that career. So it's like you teach computer how to differentiate apples from oranges. And what do you teach the computer? You teach the computer to look at the color of the item or the object. And it's like if it's red, most likely an apple. If it's orange, it's most likely an orange. And you teach these computer algorithms these features, and we do that with these traits that we measure from these 12 games that we get from the users, and then we just sort of map it to top performers in consulting. And then we contrast that with baseline group of users and see what's different from these two groups. So because this is like a full stack engineering crowd, we obviously rely on a lot of different technologies and infrastructures to build our models. But what we use currently is very Python-based. I don't know if you guys use Python here. This is just for like data science model building process only. And then this is the full breakdown of our tech stack. So we are Python Django based, and we have Ember and AngularJS and everything else. Hopefully you recognize some of these things. So moving on to taking a look at behind our scenes. We typically don't show these model breakdowns to anyone, but because you guys are special, Priyanka told me that we should be showing our models to you guys. So software development, what makes a good software engineer? And we collected data. We also have examples of good software engineers, and we looked at all these traits that are important in making a good software engineer. Two things that really stood out. It says delayed gratification. It's basically that good engineers are predisposed to seeking immediate gratification. So you don't do very well with delayed gratification. And you're also able to react very quickly, even during repetitive activities. Does that seem reasonable to you guys? I think it makes perfect sense because I actually come from an engineering background. I got my undergrad in computer engineering, did my master's in electrical engineering. Engineers need to be able to build stuff right away. If they have an idea, they're going to build it. And that's the only way they're going to be satisfied. And if you can't do it and you have to wait on somebody else to build it for you, then you're probably not going to be satisfied or happy as an engineer, right? So I think that trait is very significant in a lot of successful engineers. So moving on to, what do we have here? Sales. So a good salesperson tends to be insensitive to significant changes in reward conditions. So they just want to sell. They don't really care about how much they're going to get. They need to close that deal. And they do not learn well under controlled risk conditions. They don't learn well. So what about this one? This one is heavily controlled by something in the emotion group. What do you think this is? Any guesses? Artistic person? Artist? Actor? We don't have an actor model. Yeah, not yet. Yeah. Teacher? Teacher? Let's look more in the finance industry. Investment managers. So investment managers, potentially surprising to some of you, but I think it makes sense because good investment managers are extremely fast to identifying people's emotions. And I think that plays to their strength. And I think this shocked me, so I mean, obviously, it's maybe shocking to you. So yeah, these are some of the examples of the models that we built using the neuroscience game data that we collected. And as you can see here, using these models, a user's unique trait report, we are able to map specific users' results to the profile of successful people in various careers. Again, Priyanka, successful in product management, UX design, and quality assurance engineering. So we also gave you a little more in-depth, detailed report as to how you are a good fit for product management. How we have all these traits that we measure. Say you are a good product manager because you you are really good at reading emotion from facts, and you have really good attention duration, and so on and so forth. So finally, I mentioned that we build our algorithms all bias-free, and this means that we encourage both men and women, people of different ethnicities, to go into all careers. And I hope that that's an important mission for you guys, as well as it is to us. And by ensuring that our models are bias-free, companies using our product for the first time hiring diverse people into roles that are typically quite homogeneous. Yeah. I don't really know how you guys feel about the current state of things, but as somebody who grew up somebody who graduated in the 90s, things have not changed much after 20 years. That's 2 decades after. I studied, like I mentioned, I studied computer engineering. I go back to what it's like in computer engineering now. After 20 years, nothing really changed in terms of a men and women ratio, and I think that's a big problem. So, so I'm hoping that products like Pymetrics could actually make an impact in things like that. So, does all of this Pymetrics stuff, data science-y and neuroscience-y stuff really work? We were actually able to use our science engineering to transform hiring in companies like Unilever, Accenture, and Fidelity. So for example, I'm going to look up these stats, and I don't know how to look up stats. And the increase in socioeconomic diversity was for Unilever, the socioeconomic diversity was so large that they had to redesign their relocation budget in order to support new employees coming from community college and underprivileged areas. Fidelity went from having an 80-20 male-female ratio to hiring the same number of men and women for the first time in their company's history. Well, we've been only around for a few years, but we're already seeing that our technology helps companies efficiently hire diverse, high-performing candidates. Now, I think, let's see, that's Pymetrics, but how does this all apply to you? I hope that it shows that you can use whatever you're doing now to solve, you can use what you're learning now to solve really tangible, important problems. I was you, and a few years later, I am actually making an impact in how giant, large corporations are doing their hiring. I mean, there are so many companies out there, and I hope that you choose to think about the impact that you can make as an engineer, and not only just think about just building a component of a system, but you have what it takes to make an impact and actually solve a problem that's going to make a lot of people's lives change, not just you or somebody else sitting next to you. So as an engineer, you have the power to create technology, and that could make a huge impact. So in closing, I just want to give you a quick overview of our team. So two of our 6 engineers actually only 2 of our 6 engineers actually studied engineering in college, and the rest are self-taught and went through a boot camp similar to this one. And shameless plug, we're always looking for a new talent, so let me know if you're interested in learning more about what we're doing. We have 2 people from Pymetrics. That is Missy. This is Missy, our fabulous data scientist, also / software engineer. She does everything, and I can trust her to do everything. And head of user product, that's Priyanka. So please come talk to us if you're interested in anything Pymetrics related or anything else, your engineering career, whatever it is. We'll stick around, and we would love to talk to you. Or I'll take questions if you have any questions. Yes.
Do you guys measure the variance from the results of the individual depending? Do I take the test only once? Will I take it several times over a week? Like right now it's 6 p.m. Is there like a full day of class every time I have any?
So reliability of the test data is something that we are very, very concerned about. We typically take your very first data, and we encourage that you are fully alert and not doing other things like talking to or chatting to somebody on the phone. There is some learning component to some of our games, so that if you play twice, we do end up losing some of the signals. So the first time play is the best data set that we can get from you. So we ask that everyone pay attention and just be completely isolated from the distractions around you.
Is the service free for users?
Yes, completely free. So please go sign up and play our games. Yep.
I noticed that you had a team is all
I cannot hear you. Can you speak
I
up?
noticed that your engineering
Yes,
is all male.
you did notice.
Do you use the software to use the
Right, so initially we couldn't use our method to hire because our numbers were too small. So when we do work with companies, we ask them to have like good 30 like data points that we can build a model off of. Having said that, they're very good engineers. I would love to hire more female engineers. We just don't get a lot of applicants. And one of the reasons as to why we're here today is that we would love to have more female engineers applying to our jobs. And just, yeah. We are fully aware of this issue here. It's the broness going on here.
Don't worry, I work with them all the time. It's like my team, they're great. All of them are as committed as I am to hiring a female engineer.
Yeah. Yes.
I noticed on one of your slides that you consider games to have no cultural bias.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any data on that, but I would be surprised to learn that all genders and ethnicities are equally represented in the game.
So the games themselves could have some cultural bias, but we try our best to remove that after we get the data and before we start modeling, because there were some there's a game that show a bunch of like facial expression of a Caucasian people, and if you're from another culture, that it could probably affect in a way that's not necessarily the same as people living in North America. So we are fully aware of the differences in culture and how they actually perceive these stimuli, and we try to account for that as much as we can. And there's so much research going on in the back end to ensure that our data is as normalized as possible.
It's also being used in 68 different countries right now, so we're getting really great international data.
Yep.
The ranges of careers and things that you can match with, are they mostly these kind of white collar tech careers, or what other things are they?
So we started off with very like finance and like white collar type of careers. We're not limited to that. We are definitely adding more to our career models. At the same time, we have all these companies that are coming to our website and saying, hey, we want to hire for these customer service people and salespeople and like whatnot. So we are expanding that array of list of models that we can use to match people to jobs and to careers. Yep.
How are employers seeing potential matches? Are they just seeing profiles? Are there is it devoid of gender and ethnicity and names and work history, or is that part of the whole package that they see?
So once we are matched, because when they're going through our process, we don't have their demographic information, but once they're matched, the clients are typically interested in looking at your entire profile. So it's hard to stop them from looking at their education background and work experience and all that. But yeah, generally they're interested in looking at the whole picture.
Also, I mean, if you think about Unilever, they now don't look at resumes, right? So longer, so they have 250,000 people who apply for entry-level roles, and it used to be a manual resume process, and now we are the top-level filter. So like it is changing the way people are approaching demographic data.
And when we're not the only like step in the interview process, it's hard to say that like what's going to happen kind of once we stop touching, like once, you know, two people are sitting across the table from each other and someone's like, oh, I just, you know, you didn't go to the school that I care about, so I'm not going to push you forward. But like Frank was saying, like the idea is that there's places that this product can fit into the hiring cycle to make the steps as democratic as possible.
That's a great question.
Yep.
Do you collect data on things like job performance, job satisfaction, like how long people stay in their jobs after?
We would love to get that data, not long-term data, and we are working with our clients to get as much data as we can. As in, like, this person was hired through Pymetrics. I want to know how long they last. And these things matter a lot to us, and we are collecting as much data as we can. Yeah. Yes.
You said that
Red circle, green circle.
an
Yes.
actual test.
It is an actual test. So that's been heavily used in neuropsych research community. So yeah.
Well, what about people who are colorblind?
We do have a colorblind version of that game. Yeah. Yep. I did not hear a single word you just said.
Do you ever have to revise results because you're using machine learning algorithms?
Revise results because we're using machine learning algorithms. As in, like, we changed the model because we got more data, and now do we go back and change the predictions that were made from a previous machine learning model? Generally, no. I think whatever happened in the past, I leave it as happened in the past. If people want to get updated results, then they could try to get the updated results from us. But I don't go back and change things. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but yeah. Yes.
Do you have separate products for like everyday consumers and like enterprise, like you mentioned, Accenture, Fidelity?
Right. We're working on Pymetrics Lite that could potentially be a separate product line and more geared towards people who are not necessarily in the white-collar job market. We're investigating it. We're not right at the stage to actually make it into a production yet, but we're looking into it.
I guess just to say a little bit more. So what you guys saw, like those screenshots, are what you would experience as users coming to the site, like as job seekers coming to the site. There's also like views that you would see if you were a recruiter using the platform and kind of all of that. So like you only just sort of saw what you would see if when you leave here, you go to Pymetrics.com and you fill out your profile. Like that was the experience that we showed you. But there's clients have experiences. I mean, a few other different product lines that have slightly kind of different kind of experience just based on how we're used by a client.
And if you think about the models that we showed you that were like the behind the scenes, that's like what a recruiter would see. So like that was a generic software engineering one. But if I was Accenture, I would see like my consulting analyst model, and I could see how it was broken down by the different trades and stuff like that. So there's an entirely different like portal and login view with like all of that information for the actual companies. But this is the product that like users would get to be able to help them get career advice.
If a client made hiring decisions adhering strictly to the recommendations that you're able to provide, would those departments become homogenous, increasingly homogenous in terms of those cognitive traits?
I'm going to say no to that because when we build a model and we provide a fit score, you could have a 90% fit score, and another person could have a 90% fit score and have a completely different profile, cognitive and emotional and social profile. We're not only looking at one-to-one linear relationship between fit score and all these traits that we measure. It's a non-linear relationship. So you could get to 90 with having a very different looking profile. Yep.
The models that you made, I mean, I thought they were really interesting.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you
Thank
said you
you.
keep them private most of the time. Why? Like, I'd be curious to know what the model is for all of the jobs that you sort of match.
So a lot of the more interesting ones I find are the company or the client's models that are very specific to a specific company and a role within that company. We are not allowed to share that with the public, obviously. And we are working to expand our own Pymetrics versions of the career models as much as we can. So you could still come to Pymetrics and apply to or just play our games and be matched to these more interesting models. You might not get the description as to how you matched, but you could still benefit from the more private, interesting models as well.
I can elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure.
We did explore that.
Okay.
I think basically one of the benefits to using games is that people aren't trying to project what they want their results to be onto the way they play, right? Rather, with a questionnaire, you can be like, of course I'm a good planner and I'm attentive and whatever. Here it's like you just kind of have to be yourself because there is no like right or wrong or way to, and we are more concerned that if we put the models out there, people will be more tempted to like game games, if that makes sense. And so it's like in everyone's best interest if we like kind of keep those behind the scenes, and then you can still see there's that one view that shows you why you match to models and why you don't. So for ones that you don't match too well, it'll show you the traits where you are different from the model. So we hope that kind of like fulfills that desire to understand why you are and aren't different.
No more questions. All right, thank you so much. Oh, got more. Not very intuitive.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you your product, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so how do you convince somebody basically that you're trying to get somebody to give
I saw Evan walk in and then I saw him being very animated. I was like,
I was like heartened to hear that you had changed your
Yeah. So
to
basically,
do like after college. I just was curious how like the companies that they feel for potential matches, like how they feel about having.